Hi, my name is Telana Norfar, and I teach at Northwest Class in high school, and I'm a proud member of AFT. I'm so happy to talk to you about how we can look at finishing strong. I know this sounds crazy, especially after the break. You probably, while on break, was thinking, how are we going to wrap up this semester? I'm having a hard time engaging kids. I'm having a hard time making it myself. But I really hope that the strategies that I'm about to share with you will help you and the students with their learning all the way to the finish line. I want to go over four basic goals, all of which I have found to be really helpful through distance as well as in-person learning. The first is Maslow's. I want you to be able to explain strategies to support students emotionally, and then really taking a hard look at engagement and defining engagement. And then wrapping up with some elements of project-based learning that you can bring into your teaching, and how to use connections or your students' interests to connect to your curriculum as a way to support their learning and finishing strong. So let's look at the first one. Maslow's is always first. And basically what we're going to do is look at how we can support students emotionally through this trying season. I love this quote by Maya Angelou. It really is one of the staples that I always remind myself. Because the truth is, we really have learned that people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did. But people will never forget how you made them feel. And learning, like it or not, is tied to feelings. And we have to remember, as Maslow's revealed in 1943, that these needs is foundational to help you have a self-actualization. Now, it's not meaning that everything has to go from one level to another. He thankfully clarified that later, that you don't have to have everything figured out with philosophical needs before you go to safety. They move back and forth, but we can't ignore these needs and can't ignore looking at them. So let me explain a few things that I have done to basically allow my learning to grow because I'm meeting kids' Maslow's needs. So emotional needs are really huge for every grade level. And so these are all things that I think are great regardless of whether you're teaching kindergartners or whether you're teaching a senior. One of the things that I introduced to my students that they have found so refreshing is meditating. There's this thing called Headspace. It's an app, but they also have a YouTube channel which has some clips. And just for a minute or two, just allow kids to breathe and relax and sort of center themselves. Yoga does that too. Especially I recommend at the elementary level to do yoga periodically. You could check out this bit.ly link, which has a yoga course that I found really useful. Or you can just kind of peruse the Yoga Ed site. And then the biggest thing that I have found, definitely during this time, that I've never done before, but I found really huge, is celebrating even small things. I've always recognized kids for even big things in my class, giving them certificates and making a big deal out of them for the littlest of things. But something like a birthday shout out is so huge. I started this year making little video compilations of people's birthdays of the month, and we kind of dance and look at the video of celebrating them and their day, and they just love it. And it's an emotional connection. It's an emotional need that we can't ignore, and it's one of those things that's even more towards this season. Now, this brings me to engagement. When it comes to engagement, I will want you to think for a second, how do you define it? Even pause the video for a second and really come clear with what engagement means to you. And then unpause and let's talk about it together. So I know for me, I thought engagement was similar to that picture where every kid needs to be on it and excited and raising their hand. But I've discovered over these 15, almost going on 16 years of teaching, most of the visual cues for engagement are wrong. And what I have moved to see is that I really know I have engagement when I can really see the learning. I have an actual evidence of learning. And a piece of that is getting students to have a commitment. A commitment to learning is what I've discovered is the secret sauce to getting them engaged in learning. So I want to bring out a few tools that you can start to use or increase your usage of that I have found is great products of learning, and it helps students to get easily connected and engaged. The first you've heard me mention before in other webinars, and we even use it when I do my live webinars, and that's Nearpod. It is a wonderful technology tool that makes everything interactive and an immediate product of learning. Even the lack of students showing you any evidence is evidence that they are not connected with you and committed to the learning at that moment. I also do a lot of collaboration. Breakout rooms is wonderful combined with a Google app of like a Jamboard or a Google Slides or Word Doc or Google Doc. All of those things are great for students to use to collaborate together in a breakout room. Um, and then gamify. I know a lot of us think of, playing Jeopardy and Kahoot and Quizzy. All of those are great tools, but one of the things I've discovered is that just doing it doesn't mean that they really learned it. You want to combine it with analyzing. You want students to think about after the game, sort of where they stood in relation to their answers and what could they do differently. That's really when gamifying has its best efforts for every kid. Now, I use project-based learning as one of my staple methods for helping kids learn. But project-based learning is not the same as projects. And so I want to emphasize how you can incorporate some elements of project-based learning into your teaching, and it would really help with your engagement. John Dewey is sort of the father of the constructivist movement. And to help you sort of understand this, I love the way he makes this point of give the pupil something to do, not something to learn. And the doing is such of a nature as to demand thinking. Learning naturally results. Now, I love that he extended on that the doing is such a nature as to demand thinking. You don't want to just have them fill in things. That's not doing. But it's about really having a deep thought process in what they're doing that makes a difference, rather than continuing to have them most of the hour listen to you. So, project-based learning is best through a framework created by PBL Works. I highly suggest you check out the website and look at all of the elements that makes it gold standard PBL. But I just want to recommend three that you could look at doing between now and the end of the semester to really increase students' engagement. So one that I love that you can even tell this my students are doing in the picture back prior to COVID, but we still will do digitally this year too. And that's sustained inquiry, the ability for students to really question and be driven by their questions. So rather than, saying, hey, let's study the Civil War, really pose it in the framework of a case study or a situation and have students wrestle and question elements about the Civil War. And then through their own questioning, discover answers. I've discovered that people are much more interested in their own questions than mine. Also, giving students the ability to have some choices, giving them different things that they could do to demonstrate their learning in this last part is really helpful. They probably are very overwhelmed by the tech just as much as you. And so giving them some options of what they could do that they're comfortable with will really, really change the game. And if possible, put some realness to it. Check out the rest of your curriculum or even look at your curriculum for the last semester and how can you make it more authentic? How can you connect it to something real, to something that they're interested in or they're concerned about or their lives or just the real context of what's happening in the world. You'll be surprised how much they get interested when it's relatable. Even the kindergarten or the third grader, all grade levels love a real context. Now, I want to wrap up with the connections. You are awesome when you're able to use your students' interest to connect to your curriculum. And so I just want to give you this thought that I love from Albert Einstein. He said, I have no special talent. I'm only passionately curious. I find him very, interesting in a lot of his quotes because he is brilliant, but his realness of the fact that it's not that he's brilliant in the way we think that things came easy. It's more that he just kept going. And when we connect to what kids are naturally curious or passionate about, then they'll keep going. So please remember, your students care about some stuff. Take a little time. Figure out what it is that they do, what they're passionate about. I discovered I have a student who's really passionate about educational policy and changing governmental pieces. She took a day from school to actually register people to vote. Now I'm looking at how I can use her passion in my math analysis class and create an assignment that connects to that. You could do that too. It's not that you have to do it a different one for every kid, but look at some common passions and connect to that. Also, kids do a lot of stuff outside of just even school. It's not that they just do the things that we have in electives passionately. Sometimes they're really involved outside. I remember one time discovering a particular student was really, really high in leadership at her church. And so I capitalized on that. So look into what they possibly do and connect with it. I really, really hope that this was quick and simple for you and gave you a lot of tips, but I know you might still have some questions. So feel free to email me. Just type my name, Norfar, in the email and I'll pop up and you can email me, or on any social media. You can follow me at TH and ask me questions there, or just kind of peeking on my class, because I do try to post things. I've been kind of bad so far for the last few months, but I'm going to get back in the rotation and post things that I'm doing. So this was wonderful to bring you this again. I can't wait to show you more later.